Niner faithful, welcome back to NFL Focus. Pull up a chair and lean in, because right now, two major conversations are happening simultaneously around your San Francisco 49ers. Both of them deserve your absolute undivided attention heading into what could genuinely be the most important, legacy-defining season this franchise has played since Kyle Shanahan first stepped foot in Santa Clara back in 2017. The first conversation is all about Brock Purdy. We need to talk about whether 2026 is finally the year the man who was supposed to be nobody, the final pick in the draft, completes the ultimate cinematic storyline and becomes the most valuable player in the entire National Football League. The second conversation is happening in the shadows of the front office. It is about a free agent market that still has deep, meaningful talent sitting unsigned. These are seasoned veterans, proven playmakers who could walk into Levi's Stadium tomorrow and make this already loaded roster even more terrifying before training camp even opens in late July. Let us get into both of these right now, because the clock is ticking, the season is breathing down our necks, and neither conversation can wait. We have to start with Purdy and that heavyweight MVP discussion. When you look at the landscape right now, the circumstances surrounding our quarterback heading into 2026 are actually more favorable for a genuine, narrative-shattering MVP push than they have been at any single point in his career. Now, if you look at the Vegas lines, Purdy currently sits at plus 20,000 odds to win the MVP award. Let that sink in. That means the betting market views him as a massive long shot. They have him tied with Jayden Daniels, sitting well behind names like Jordan Love and Dak Prescott. On the surface, if you are just a casual fan reading the headlines, those long odds might seem reasonable. Critics love to point to his history of injury interruptions, and then there is that persistent, exhausting media narrative that he only succeeds because of the system and the brilliant minds around him. But when you actually dig into the soul of this team, when you look at what has structurally changed around this situation and why 2026 is fundamentally different from every previous season, the case for Purdy hoisting that MVP trophy is so much more compelling than those numbers suggest. Think back to 2023. Purdy was putting up the best statistical season of his life. He was legitimately in the MVP race for months. But every single week, the narrative working against him was the exact same script that has followed him since the moment he was picked 262nd in the draft. They said he was being carried by the Avengers. They called him a system quarterback. They claimed Kyle Shanahan could roll out a bowling ball at quarterback and make the offense look elite. They said the talent around him was so exceptional that any competent signal caller could produce those numbers. Every single week, those arguments were recycled on every major podcast, every sports network, and they stuck because they had just enough surface-level validity to confuse people. But then last season happened. And last season changed the entire conversation in a way that no spreadsheet or statistical argument ever could. The 49ers were absolutely decimated by injuries. One by one, the supporting cast that critics claimed was doing all the heavy lifting was systematically ripped away from the field. Purdy was left operating with a depleted patchwork collection of players that bore almost no resemblance to that Avengers roster he was supposedly dependent on. And what did he do when his back was against the wall? In that exact state, with the weight of the franchise on his shoulders, Purdy led the 49ers into the postseason. He marched into hostile territory and beat the defending Super Bowl champions on the road. And who was his number one target that day? Deebo Samuel. Just Deebo Samuel. Not a healthy Brandon Ayuk, not Jawan Jennings. Deebo Samuel, who had finished the previous year as the 7th receiver on the team's depth chart in terms of pure production. Think about the sheer grit of that moment. Against the defending champions, on the road, in the playoffs, with the season on the line. You simply cannot square that heroic result with the lazy system quarterback narrative. The casual NFL fans who watched that game saw a warrior. They absorbed what Purdy did under intense pressure, and the football world is now far more open to acknowledging that this kid is genuinely elite, not just a product of a scheme. Before we see what happens when he gets back into a fully healthy offense, I want to take a quick second to talk to you directly. To produce deep dive documentaries like this, to really break down the film and bring you the truth about our team, takes an incredible amount of hard work, sleepless nights, and dedication from our small team here at NFL Focus. We do it because we love the Niners just like you do. If you appreciate the grind and want to help us grow this community, please hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, share this video with another Niner fan, and drop a comment below. Every single subscription is a massive wave of motivation for us to keep pushing and delivering the best content possible. Thank you so much for the love. Now, those same fans get to watch what happens when you put a battle-tested, confident Brock Purdy back inside a fully operational, healthy, maximally weaponized offense. Look at the transformation. Every single receiver who was on that 2023 Super Bowl roster is gone. The front office has completely rebuilt the room around Purdy at the skill positions. Mike Evans is now in the building, bringing that championship pedigree. Ricky Pearsall is entering his third season, looking poised to break out as a legitimate star. The coaching staff has made fixing and elevating the run game an absolute priority heading into this year. George Kittle is fighting like a warrior, targeting a Week 1 or Week 2 return from his Achilles injury. And the offensive line, when healthy and operating with continuity, remains one of the most functional, violent units in the entire NFC. The argument that a second MVP-caliber season under these brand new circumstances proves the doubters wrong is beautiful, because there is no old guard to point to. There is no familiar cast of weapons to use as an excuse for his success. This is a completely rebuilt offense producing elite results with the exact same quarterback at the center of the universe. And there is one more element that could make this MVP push even more statistically dominant than anything we saw in 2023. If the run game struggles early or underperforms relative to expectations, Kyle Shanahan is going to have to lean heavily on the passing game to move the chains and score points. That means more volume for number 13. More volume in an offense where Mike Evans is demanding double teams and drawing deep safety help creates wide open prairies for every other receiver on the field. That translates directly to monster passing numbers. A version of Brock Purdy who is throwing 45 times per game rather than 35 times per game in a system that already maximizes historic efficiency per attempt is a quarterback who could put up astronomical numbers. By December, it might be completely impossible for MVP voters to look anywhere else. He just needs to stay healthy and produce. The stage is set, the script is written, and everything else is already in place. Now, let us pivot to the free agency market because John Lynch and the 49ers are not done building this roster. There are several names still floating around out there who could make a profound immediate impact before the physical grind of training camp opens. Let us walk through the most compelling options, starting at the tight end position. Jonnu Smith remains unsigned, and he represents a genuinely fascinating fit for what Kyle Shanahan loves to do. Smith is a versatile hybrid tight end. He is exactly the kind of chess piece that Shanahan has historically weaponized in creative ways, shifting him into the backfield, putting him in motion, or letting him cook from the slot. He just came off his best professional season in Miami under Mike McDaniel, which is incredibly important to note. McDaniel spent years apprenticing under Shanahan and runs a direct derivative of this exact offensive system. When a player thrives in a Shanahan-adjacent scheme, they come to Santa Clara already knowing the foundational terminology, the blocking concepts, and the formatting of the playbook. That compresses the learning curve dramatically. Smith is not a traditional hand-in-the-dirt inline blocker, but he is a devastating move blocker who can create leverage angles on the edge, and he has been a legitimate, reliable red zone weapon throughout his entire career. With George Kittle's return timeline still carrying a bit of uncertainty and the need for tight end depth being very real, Smith is the kind of smart signing that adds immediate versatility and experience without forcing the front office to compromise the salary cap. Then there is Zach Ertz. He is still out there on the market, and he brings a completely different, highly respected profile to the conversation. For a long time with the Eagles, Ertz was one of the absolute best, most dependable tight ends in the entire NFC. Even last season with the Commanders, he maintained highly reliable production. Look, he is obviously not the explosive athlete he was during his prime, and his blocking has naturally declined over the years, but as a short to intermediate receiving option who masterfully understands how to find the soft spots in zone coverage, box out defenders, and move the chains on third down, Ertz still possesses legitimate winning NFL value. While we wait for Kittle to fully recover from his Achilles injury and find his footing early in the season, having a veteran like Ertz in the building as an experienced safety blanket makes immense practical sense. He is a consummate professional. He knows how to practice efficiently, he can contribute to the game plan without demanding 15 targets, and he provides the exact kind of veteran leadership that helps a young tight end room develop championship habits. Shifting over to the defensive side of the ball, Xavier Woods is easily the most intriguing addition the 49ers could make. What makes this conversation even more compelling is the fact that Woods has publicly expressed a genuine desire to play in San Francisco. Woods is a legitimate starting NFL safety with extensive experience playing the true free safety role. He is primarily a coverage specialist and a turnover generator rather than a thumping box safety, which gives him a completely different tactical profile than what the 49ers currently have in their secondary room. Adding a piece like Woods gives Raheem Morris another highly experienced, intelligent option over the top as he finalizes the defensive structure heading into the regular season. And let us not underestimate the power of a player wanting to be here. When a veteran comes into a new locker room with genuine desire and hunger to win a ring, rather than just chasing the biggest bag of money available on the market, they tend to sacrifice and contribute at a higher level from day one. Now, Kyle Van Noy deserves a much deeper conversation than he usually gets in these standard veteran pass rusher discussions. The connection he has to this organization through his close friendship with Fred Warner and their shared collegiate background is not a minor detail. Van Noy has been one of the most reliable, smartest hybrid pass rushers and linebackers in the NFL for the better part of a decade. He is the kind of player whose value goes way beyond the box score. He might not consistently put up 15-sack seasons, but he alters games through high pressure rates, flawless coverage assignments, and the sheer multiplicity of what he can do from various alignments on the field. The 49ers desperately need edge rushing help right now. Michael Williams is still fighting his way back from that tough ankle injury, and let us be honest, the overall pass rush needs a massive injection of production after finishing dead last in the league in sacks last year. That is a painful stat for a Niner defense. Van Noy provides immediate, functional help. Beyond the football fit, his ability to serve as a mentor to a young, ascending edge rusher like Romeo Heights while still delivering high-quality snaps on Sundays makes his value proposition incredibly compelling at a price tag that easily fits within our current cap constraints. And then there is the legendary Cam Jordan. This is the kind of potential signing that would generate massive waves of genuine excitement, as much for its emotional symbolism as its actual on-field value. Jordan has been one of the premier elite defensive ends in the National Football League for nearly 15 years. He is a Saints icon, a franchise cornerstone, and a future first-team Hall of Famer whose career production speaks entirely for itself. Naturally, his play has declined slightly from his peak years, which is completely expected for a defensive lineman fighting in the trenches in his mid-30 ES. But his presence alone alters a locker room, his profound knowledge of the game, and his ability to still generate crucial, clutch pressure as a situational pass rusher would add immense value to a defensive line room that is getting younger and desperately needs veteran leadership. Can you imagine the storyline? The connection between Cam Jordan and Mike Evans, two Warriors who have been going head-to-head in absolute wars in the NFC South for nearly 15 years, potentially becoming teammates on the same championship-starved roster. That is the kind of beautiful football story that writes itself, and you know the 49ers locker room would absolutely embrace him with open arms. We also have to look at the unheralded moves, like the backfield additions of Darrynton Evans and Antonio Gibson as potential fourth running backs with high-level kick return experience. This addresses a highly specific need that gets completely overlooked in most roster discussions. The 49ers have to figure out their return game this year, especially with Jacob Cowing now getting serious looks to log heavy snaps as a primary wide receiver. The special teams kick return role has not yet been definitively locked down by anyone. A player like Gibson, who brings legitimate kick return experience alongside his proven pass-catching ability out of the backfield, covers an operational vulnerability without requiring a massive financial investment. These are not the types of signings that dominate the headlines on sports networks, but they are exactly the kinds of gritty depth additions that championship rosters require to survive the brutal attrition and injury realities of a 17-game regular season and a deep post-season run. This brings us to a fascinating emotional debate that has been capturing the imagination of the fan base recently. It is a Mount Rushmore bracket conversation. Christian McCaffrey versus Joe Staley. This debate is incredible because it forces you to think about how we evaluate legacy, loyalty, and sheer peak contribution in the context of a single franchise. Joe Staley gave 13 beautiful years of his life to this organization. He bled red and gold. He was a Pro Bowl caliber player for almost the entirety of his career, anchoring the offensive line as the trusted captain during two completely different Super Bowl runs under two entirely different coaching staffs. He was the undeniable heart and soul of the locker room for over a decade, a franchise cornerstone whose profound influence extended far beyond individual statistics or accolades. When you think of the modern 49ers, you think of Joe Staley standing tall. That is a breathtaking legacy by any possible measure. And yet, look at what Christian McCaffrey has done in his time with the 49ers. He came in and immediately became the Offensive Player of the Year. He was the roaring engine of the best offense in the NFC during that magical championship run. He is the transcendent superstar who took a below .500 team and turned them into an unstoppable Super Bowl contender almost single-handedly from the exact moment he stepped off the plane. Nobody will ever forget his first full game as a 49er against the Rams, recording a rushing touchdown, a receiving touchdown, and a passing touchdown. It remains one of the most complete, jaw-dropping individual performances any player has ever delivered in their debut with a new franchise. The sheer quality and dominance of his contribution per game played in a 49ers uniform has been higher than almost any player in the history of this historic franchise. The longevity argument heavily favors Staley. The peak transformative impact argument favors McCaffrey. This is exactly the kind of agonizing, beautiful debate that makes sports so special. As we look toward the young roster, the Upton Stout breakout prediction that has been circulating in our community is something we should all fully embrace. This is not just random hype. It is an internally validated take that deserves way more national amplification than it is currently getting. Fred Warner himself has been publicly praising Stout for months now. The coaching staff absolutely loves his aggressive mentality, his physical nature, and his refusal to back down. He is entering year 2 with a full off-season of perfect health, a clear starting role to go out and actively compete for, and he is getting direct daily mentorship from the best linebacker on planet Earth every single day in practice. Everything about his current circumstance points toward a massive, meaningful development spike. The main challenge left for him is converting that fierce physicality and those raw instincts into consistent ball production. He needs to start getting his hands on the football in tight coverage situations, the way a truly great nickel corner does at the highest level of professional football. If that piece clicks into place in year 2, Stout could easily emerge as one of the most pleasant, dominant defensive surprises of the entire season. Before we wrap this up, I want to extend one final heartfelt thank you to everyone watching. Building this channel and researching these documentaries takes a tremendous amount of hard work and endless dedication. We pour our hearts into NFL Focus because we want to give this community the elite content it deserves. Every single subscription, like, and comment means the world to us and gives us the motivation to keep grinding. If you haven't yet, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Niner Faithful, you know exactly what needs to happen in the comment section right now. I want to hear from every single one of you. Does Brock Purdy defy the odds and win the NFL MVP? If you had the power to sign just one free agent from our list, whether it is Jonnu Smith, Xavier Woods, Kyle Van Noy, Cam Jordan, Zach Ertz, or one of those versatile backfield additions, who are you bringing in with the remaining cap space before training camp kicks off? And in that heavyweight Mount Rushmore bracket, does Christian McCaffrey's mind-bending, transformative impact beat out 13 years of Joe Staley's legendary franchise cornerstone status? Drop every single opinion you have got below. Let us get this community talking. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and lock in because training camp is coming fast. And the 49ers are about to give us everything we can handle for the next 6 months. Let's go Niners. Let's bring that Lombardi trophy back home where it belongs.